if you've ever regretted a purchase. Well, it's not just us. A study in 2024 revealed that 71% of people in the UK return items at least some of the time. We are a nation of serial returners. In fact, 1 in 5 purchases online is returned. And the impact is staggering. Each year, £5 billion worth of returned items goes into landfill. And the cost to UK businesses is thought to average around 60 billion a year, with 20 billion attributed to online sales alone. It's a problem, right? Well, it's why I'm here to share the hidden story behind why we buy. Once you know this story, you'll want to write a new ending, and I'll help you to do that. Why me? Well, I've worked in marketing for 20 years. I have learnt and observed consumer behaviour. I've seen behind the curtain. But I'm also a consumer who has regretted far too many of her own purchases. I believe we need to understand why we buy so that we can take control and become conscious consumers for our wallets, our economy, and the planet. Let's rewrite this story. I'd like to start by looking at why we return items. Some of it's practical. If you want a new pair of jeans, you might order 5 pairs, different sizes, different styles, and then have to return them. Fashion retail has one of the highest return rates. You'd expect that. But a study in 2022 asked retailers to report on why people sent back items. And the largest category at 32% was false damage claims for refunds. What that means is that somebody returns an item saying it's damaged, but when it's received back to the retailer, no damage is found, which is quite strange behaviour, right? The theory is that people say it's damaged because they've actually just changed their minds, but they don't feel legitimate saying that's what's happened. In fact, most retailers wouldn't accept that as a reason to return an item. But it's an interesting phrase, isn't it? Change your mind. I'm going to explain the process that happens when you change your mind. And it will make sense of a lot of decisions that you might have regretted in your life. Today we're focusing on consumer behaviour, but it'll let you off the hook for a lot more. The truth is that we are operating on outdated hardware. Our brains are not designed for the world that we live in, not for modern workplaces, not for e-commerce, not for having mobile phones, and certainly not for the middle aisle of some well-known supermarket chains. When it comes to decision-making, psychologists like Daniel Kahneman like to break the brain into 2 systems to try and explain what happens. I'm a particular fan of the metaphor used by Jonathan Haidt of the elephant and the rider. In this system, the elephant represents your older part of your brain. It's powerful, it's emotional, it's fast, and it's driven by really primal urges. But most of the thought in this part of the brain is unconscious. Then we have the rider, a newer part of our brain. This is slow, it is deliberate, and it's great for problem solving. It's really what makes us human. But most of the thought in this part of the brain is conscious, so it requires an enormous amount of energy. What this means is that the rider can't actually be involved in every decision or choice we have to make in the day. If you think about it, the minute you wake up, you start to make decisions. As a consequence, a lot of decisions are actually handled by the elephant using mental shortcuts, emotional, unconscious, instinctive decisions that need to be made quickly. However, most of these decisions the rider wouldn't agree with. We like to think as humans that we're really rational. We like to think that our rider is in control. But if the elephant wants to go somewhere, The rider is along for the ride. In summary, your rider sets the New Year's resolution, your elephant breaks it. Your rider wants to lose weight, your elephant buys the takeaway. Your rider wants to save money, your elephant buys a sports car. This is the reason why you walk into a supermarket wanting eggs and bread and walk out with a yoga top and a paddling pool. See, I'm not alone. Particularly when you are tired, hungry, or overwhelmed. Right? Just think about it. When was the last time that you said something, did something, ate something, or bought something that you later regretted? Was it the end of a long day? Had you made lots of decisions? Were you just a bit tired? But the elephant is not the enemy. It really wants the best for you. The issue is that it is operating on really basic survival instincts. Spotting threats and keeping you safe. Making sure that you stay connected and protected by a tribe. Ensuring that you have enough food to eat. But these factors are out of date. Most of us in the UK, we do have enough to eat. And social bonds, whilst very important for emotional and mental health, they're not the live and die situations that they were when this part of the brain evolved. The elephant is also responsible for automatic reactions because thought here is unconscious. And part of that is reserving energy for you. But also, things have to happen really quickly in the elephant's world. Not every decision has enough time for a decision tree and a spreadsheet. More's the pity. These factors in combination means that we are drawn to behaviours that made sense in a world of scarcity, but they don't always serve us now. And our drive to signal status and our place within the tribe impacts our spending, from the clothes we wear to the houses we live in and the cars we drive, all signalling our place within the tribe. Remember when I told you that a lot of returns happen because people change their minds? When you change your mind, your rational rider wakes up and takes back control from a decision that your emotional elephant has made and it doesn't agree with. This is why a lot of purchases lead to regret. They are led and driven by unconscious drivers. This also creates a problem for market research, because in market research, people are asked why they did something, and they don't really know, right? So we justify things after the fact. And we've known that this is a problem for a while. David Ogilvy, who was considered a father of advertising, back in 1963 said, "The problem with market research is that people don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say." I'm going to say that one more time, just to give you a bit more time with this. The trouble with market research is that people don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. But this dynamic between the elephant and the rider creates a cycle of overspending, regret, and frustration for consumers. For businesses, it means waste, loss of profits, and environmental harm. In the end, nobody really wins. And we've known about this for a while as well, because the elephant and the rider metaphor is very similar to an allegory shared by Plato of the chariot and the rider, to describe the duality of human behaviour, this push-pull. But he shared it over 2,300 years ago, so we've known about this for a while. I've thrown a load of statistics and a dollop of science at you, so I want to take this concept for a test drive and see if you can relate. I'd like you to meet Betty. She's a 26-year-old graphic designer whose car is on its last legs. She knows that she needs a new one, so she set herself a budget and an idea of what she's after. Something that's really fuel efficient, good for her day-to-day life. But the minute that she steps foot inside the dealership, her resolve is tested by this gleaming red sports car, which just exudes excitement. And the salesperson picks up on her intrigue and points out a limited time offer. This creates a feeling of urgency, which creates more emotional pull. So she takes it for a test drive. This car is not just a vehicle, it is a statement. of a confident, successful version of herself that she wants to be. She imagines this car in her life and how it will feel. And by the time she gets back from the test drive, Betty's not in the driving seat. Her elephant is. So she buys it. And driving home, she's really excited by the idea of her friends excited to go out in it with her, and miss glances from strangers. But as the weeks pass by, habituation kicks in, and she's just gets used to this in her life. It's a bit less exciting. But reality also creeps in. This car guzzles fuel, and the repayments are crippling. As a consequence, she's having to give up things that were more important to her. And she wonders if this car just cost too much. The automotive industry is a perfect example of emotional buying. In theory, buying a car should be a completely rational purchase because it just takes you from A to B. If it were, there would be a limit to how much people would be willing to spend, and maybe 5 or so different functional types, depending on what you really needed. Instead, it is an industry with limitless functions, features, and finishes, designed to appeal to our desires, not our needs. Betty's experience also highlights how emotions and identity play as large a role in buying decisions as rational thought does. And also how companies capitalise on these psychological forces. Now, you might think that marketers would be immune to these forces. No. I think we're actually the worst suckers. I've often observed how cleverly someone has managed to get me to hand over my money while it's happening. It's like an out-of-body experience. But it made me think, what if I could take all this knowledge that I knew about what makes consumers buy and reverse engineer them? Because I've been fed up and frustrated with my own spending for long enough. Each year I'd set goals around saving money and paying off debt, and each year I'd fall short because I was emotionally buying, just like many of you might be. So why do we buy? Number one, we want to fit in and belong. I don't want you to underestimate the importance of this. It is not trivial. At one point, fitting in and belonging was critical to our survival, and not just ours, our families as well. And that is hardwired into us. Also, it just feels really good, right? Whether it's that unboxing moment when something arrives that you've been waiting for, whether it's walking into a shop with lovely music and friendly salespeople, maybe it's the haptic on your phone, that little buzz you get when you check something out. All of these experiences have been optimized to maximize a dose of dopamine that gets released in your brain. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical that our brain uses to encourage repeat behavior. But it's also behind negative behavior, like gambling, compulsive gaming, and compulsive shopping. But also most purchases are automatic and unconscious because most decisions are automatic and unconscious. But some decisions deserve to be made conscious, and there are ways to do it. If you want to take control of your spending, it's time to become conscious consumers. Carl Jung once said, "Until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our life and we will call it fate." Or in some cases, let it max out our credit card. I also want to take a moment to talk about the elephant in the room. Because we are living in a cost of living crisis, yet it's easier than ever to buy things that we desire but do not need. We are constantly bombarded with messages introducing us to new products we didn't even know existed, but can't imagine not being in our lives. At the same time, we have more comfort, more convenience, and more choice than we ever had before. Yet the UK standing and the World Happiness Index has fallen 10 places in the last 6 years. It's not getting us very far, is it? And if you imagine that this situation will be resolved by the next pay rise, the next promotion, or the next lottery win, overspending is not just a poor people problem, because lifestyle creep happens to everyone, even the high earners. It's where we take luxuries or things that were luxuries and they become necessities. In fact, a study from 2024 by Starling Bank revealed that 30% of those who make over £100,000 a year couldn't make groceries and utilities because they were overspending in social situations. That's the power of the tribe. This is where we rewrite the story. A lot of time, effort and money has gone into leveraging this quirk of biology to sell things to us. These are the methods you can use to become more conscious consumers. First of all, wait. The longer you can wait, the less likely you are to regret. Because by waiting, you allow your rational rider and your emotional elephant to both be involved in the decision. Particularly do this if it's late at night, because your rider's lost control by that point. Most arguments actually happen late at night for this same reason. But waiting is not enough. You also have to be honest with yourself and ask why you're making this purchase. A lot of buying happens to alleviate boredom, to self-soothe, to improve self-esteem, or inhabit an identity. So be very brutally honest with yourself about why you're doing it. Is your elephant in the driving seat? And finally, think long-term, because every yes is a no to something else, and even small purchases add up. Each year, Britons spend around £416 a year on impulse purchases. And over a working lifetime, that's almost £20,000. Imagine what you could do with that. We all benefit from a world with more conscious consumers. When you take control of your own spending, you not only improve your own financial well-being, but also encourage businesses to behave more sustainably. Together, we can reduce waste for our wallets, our economy, and the planet. Thank you.